Welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm Dr. Anna Wasasha, president of Middlesex Community College here in Middletown, Connecticut. And joining me today are the two stars of our new program, the New Media Center. So I asked Rich Lenoce and Rick Eriksen, so it's Rich and Rick, sometimes that throws me, to come be on the radio show today because I want to know what new media is, first of all, and I want to tell everybody in our listening audience about this amazing new program. So where should we start? What is new media?
Ooh, that's a tough definition. We always kick it around. It's something that changes. It's dynamic. It's in flux. Media is changing. How we look at our media, how we create our media, where we find our media, when and where we can watch our media is changing. So it's old media delivered in new ways.
Yeah. So media is, just sort of to ground it, it's radio and TV. And CDs, right? Is that so ancient? DVDs?
Yeah, that was tricky. When I'm in class and I make reference of CDs, it's definitely a joke at this point. Nobody's really thinking, disc-based technology. So it's really,
it's digital.
It's definitely digital, and it's not just, it's the phone at the back flashing his tape cassette. They can't even say the word tape in the classes anymore. They're, like tape. What? Not everybody, but
I say records.
You say records,
I say
and you
records.
Lose half the class. I would think.
People look at me
what
like,
is that?
What is
that?
Right.
Well, so what is digital? What does that mean? And part of my recollection of the argument about going from, say, vinyl to whatever DVDs and tapes were, was that you lost the quality. So digital is totally created by a computer. By technology.
It's a transcription of the quality, I guess is the best way to put it. You're taking the information, the sound in case of music, it would be a song, and you take it and you turn it into bits and bytes and zeros and ones, something that a microprocessor, doesn't have to be a computer, but a microprocessor can handle. And what that's empowering, and there's arguments by audiophiles who claim the sound is lost and there's some certain qualities that get lost in this translation. However, what it opens up is the ability to edit the work, change the work, send the work anywhere in the world, compress the work so it's very small and can go onto a phone. So you can do all kinds, you can add information to it.
Right. Putting it on the phone, the smartphone taking over the world kind of idea is remarkable. Because you can put entire books on phones and thousands of hours of music and things like that and hold it in your hand.
It is funny, but folks say, it's just ones and zeros, so of course we can copy it and push it forward, and it's not as easy as just saying, you just push a button and then actually out pops the particular file format that can go onto your phone. And I think that's important, that's a piece of what we are trying to do within the programs, which is to, instead of people just pushing a button and saying, I've arrived at a digital MP3 and can put it on my phone, but what are the technical details to that? And why would an MP3 not be the best choice if you were an audiophile? And if you were producing media for, let's say, a different environment, but it was still digital, there's a rack of information that you really do need to know. And that translates not just from what we're talking about, the audio, the visuals, and so forth, but that also translates into the technology, to the traditional stuff, the print, and what technical details are there. The video, which it's hard to even say video in classes anymore because people are then thinking, video, we used to say videotape, and is it video? Actually, in my animation classes, we kind of joke around that there is no such thing as video. There is no such thing really as film, and what we're really talking about are these static images, and it's really frame rate. It's really, and so now people like frame rate, and the frames per second, and how fast we view the images, the static visual image, translates into what medium we might be talking about, or how it actually is perceived. So the new media is really this fine art, these older pieces, but just all of this new information and new ways of dealing with it, and the technical specifications are kind of the bits and pieces that we're trying to give to people or get people involved.
So, we're going to come back after this message and talk some more about what we're actually trying to give people, the frame rate kind of information you're talking about. Well, welcome back to Middlesex Moments. I'm talking today with Rick Eriksen and Rich Lenoce, who are, as I said earlier, the stars of our new media program. We just spent a little time trying to figure out what new media really is. I think the really cool part about new media is that we have a program at the college, at Middlesex. And so people, and I would predict that the students who enter into this program and become, your students actually will invent a lot of new media because it's probably being invented every minute of every day. So it's a great opportunity for them to come and get some skills, get access to technology, but then also take it to places we've never imagined before. So let's start with you, Rich. So what's your role with new media? What are you doing with it?
Well, I'm the director of the project. And what we're trying to do is there's an umbrella. And under that umbrella are a whole bunch of programs, our existing programs, communications, which is a transfer program, as well as 2 occupational programs, the broadcast cinema program and the multimedia program. And then off of that, we're building other programs, shorter-term certificate programs in areas of specialization, things in interactive entertainment, animation, news and sports production, creating new courses in digital cinematography and gaming and other areas. So we're having this umbrella we're calling the Center for New Media. It's going to be a physical center as well as an umbrella for programs, and where a lot of exciting things are going to be taking place. And the goal is to educate people, get them out into the workforce, and doing productive things and inventing a lot of the new media that you were describing.
Right. Yeah. So, you have an advisory board, right? So what kinds of folks are on your advisory board and how are they helping?
People on the advisory board represent a wide range of companies, new media companies, broadcast companies. WMRD, WLIS is represented.
That's good to know.
ESPN is represented, WFSB, a lot of small production companies. Moving Pictures is one. They're local here in Middletown. So there are several of these. We have some nonprofits, ARRL, the American Radio Relay League up in Newington. And these companies are telling us what's going on out there in the workplace, what kind of skills are needed, what kind of education do people need. We're discovering certain jobs are 1-year education, some are 2-year associate degree programs, and some require 4 years bachelor degree programs. So we're discerning what's needed in that regard, on the programmatic side, on the skill sets. On the other side is what kind of technology do we need to have in the facility that we're building? What's the facility need to look like to support that technology, to support new media and the kind of things we're trying to do? So we're really kind of trying now at this point, I think, to break that advisory board and use the expertise in those 2 areas, program and skills and technology and facilities.
Yeah, the technology is so fascinating because it does change so rapidly, right?
Yes.
How would you summarize what they would say is the state of media in Connecticut? Where are we with the development of that sector of the economy in Connecticut?
The good news in the economy in Connecticut regarding media is it's growing at about a 15% annual rate, which is higher than the national average. Media is growing everywhere. There's just more of it. More of it's being produced. But in Connecticut, we're producing more. So, and requiring more employees. So for a person who wants to change their job, who might be unemployed, or a young person looking at colleges and to get a job, that now's the time. If you were to go through any of these businesses' websites, you would see job openings. And when people get jobs, they rapidly ascend the ladder, they move laterally, they get involved in new areas that weren't around 5 years before. And so it's a really exciting time in media, and Connecticut is becoming a media production hub. We've got 6,000 people over at ESPN just a few miles away. Another almost 1,000 down at Stanford at NBC Universal Sports. So, it's growing in these big companies, but there are all these small companies, these, small gaming companies creating apps to go on phones, production companies that are creating the content to go on these digital channels as well as traditional broadcast channels. So it's just expanding, it's ballooning.
It's fantastic.
The small companies are interesting to focus in on because they're actually specifically looking for, it's a little trickier what they're looking for. They're looking for people who have more little utilities hanging off their utility belt. Whereas you have a larger company like an ESPN where it says, okay, we need to bring in someone who, let's say, is going to be an editor. And so that's their focus. So great, we can train them in that regard. It's the smaller companies that are looking for an individual to coming in who really, it isn't one particular set of technology that they need to be aware of. They need to be aware of pretty much what exists and what's emerging and all of the details, which is difficult. So you have someone who, for instance, might actually come into a place needing to be able to acquire still images, go out, acquire content, being a still images, then grab some video, combine that with the story, combine that, be able to upload that, integrate graphics, put it all together. Whereas usually that's broken up into various different people at a larger organization. These smaller companies want someone who can come in and do 5, 6, 7 different pieces of that sort of production scenario. And that really is I think what focuses in the new media is how many of these pieces, so that if all of a sudden enrolls the new 3D printer, okay, what does that mean? How can we utilize that? And does an individual have the skill set to understand, let's say, simple 3D modeling before they can even hit the print button? And what exactly does that mean? Or different distribution mechanisms or display devices. For instance, VR is starting to come back with, let's say, the Oculus Rift, which is sort of a consumer-based sort of head-mounted display. And what does it mean to...
What is that? I mean, tell me, like the Google Glasses? Or no?
Not the Google Glasses. Google Glasses is a little bit more augmented, where we're seeing everything around us, but there's an overlay of an interface that's augmenting what we're seeing. So we might look at a particular car, this is a crass example, and I see that, it's a Ford, and all of a sudden I can have that information. Or I'm walking down Main Street and I can see all of the restaurants sort of in my Google Glasses overlaid on top of that. That's what we call that augmented reality. Oculus Rift is sort of a affordable virtual sort of display technology where it is basically a head-mounted display, but it blocks off pretty much your entire vision. And it's a display that actually they've sort of progressed in technology where they've put curved lenses in, they've decreased the lag time so that it's much more accessible to more people in terms of giving them a virtual world experience. Now, you need someone on your team, if that's coming in, who's at least understands how does a 3D image work. It's not just one image, but it's 2 images. And then how is that utilized within, let's say, the engine or the development kit for the Oculus Rift, and how are they going to take their technology and kind of fuse that? So it is tricky, like what do you pick and choose, in terms of weaving into the curriculum to make sure that utility belt is as filled with the tools that the employer's actually specifically looking for. And the smaller ones definitely are looking for, hey, do you have a programmer, a designer, and someone who's familiar, let's say, with 3D modeling, because we're doing a lot of that.
What's the role of creativity in all of this?
I think it's funny, Rich and I, from day one, and this is many years back, that if you're just relying on the technology and the ability to understand a component of a piece of software and the button pushing process, you most likely are probably going to find yourself maybe displaced down the road. So really the number one, I think, focus within the umbrella of programs under the New Media Center is the content and the aesthetic. And we can always, if we've got someone who's leaving here with a solid foundation of sort of how to produce content, but with an aesthetic focus first, then coupled with the technological, that person's so much more valuable in terms of whatever new piece of technology comes down the pike. Well, that's just a training on that new black box, but we can really, really go with that aesthetic foundation and that core. So really it's content creation and aesthetic kind of comes first before the technology, or really at the same time that we're kind of working with the...
It's almost like we like to remove the tools sometimes from it. If you're a writer, everybody here at this college and most people you went to on the street can operate Microsoft Word. Now, how many people can write a novel?
Yeah.
And it's along the same lines. Yeah. Digital photography is still photography. The tool is you're learning how to use that tool to communicate information. to do the creative work of photography. Make beautiful pictures, make important pictures, make documentary pictures. So it's that aesthetic that you learn that communicates information that's so important, and using these digital tools is extremely powerful. We don't have to use typewriters anymore. We use Microsoft Word. You've taken the mechanics out of the process. We still have to learn a little bit of mechanics and a lot of mechanics.
It's interesting too to see how the technology actually almost forces the aesthetic to sort of be forces the aesthetic. I mean, for still images, for instance, it's only been recent that the aspect of one by one has become an issue, meaning that you have all of these new media sites and places that really are not in tune with an aspect ratio, width that is wider, let's say, than the height. So normally when you go to the movies, it's the width 16 by 9 or even larger. This is the aspect ratio. Well, now you have something like Instagram and all of the components that are on the social media where your designs actually really do at the get-go need to start thinking about one-to-one, because they need to fit in a square potentially, whether that be small or large. And it's such a small technical detail, but it drives the aesthetic from the very beginning. Something like video, for instance. Being able to cut a 15-minute video, it's weird that now currently Vine is kind of the thing that's 6 seconds. So now how do you produce content or deliver an idea in 6 seconds or less, and then actually tie that in, because that's a hot sort of social media element that people are really using right at this moment. And that's a big change from being able to do a minute to 3 minute piece versus a 6 second, and what now goes through the process aesthetically.
Holy moly. That's what I have to say about that. We have to break, and then we'll come back and talk about Vine. That sounds good to me. Well, welcome back to Rich Lenoce and Rick Eriksen from the New Media Center at Middlesex Community College. I'm currently in a state of being blown away by the concept of a 6-second video, Vine. And I was wanting to ask some more questions about how you promote creativity in people. No matter where, whether they come just straight out of high school, they've been in the workforce for a while, or coming back to school.
Probably if you walked into a particular classroom, obviously each instructor, professor's sort of got their own way of getting that to happen.
Can everybody be creative?
Totally.
Yes.
It's definitely, I hear these people like, oh, I can't do that. I wasn't born with that skill or something like that. Now, granted, there's probably some wiring when you pop out of the womb that makes it a little easier, but realistically, most people can exercise that muscle, which the creative muscle. I think the tricky part is that most people who say they can't just haven't been doing it for for a good long time. And so that when they're in a classroom environment and they see other people who seem to be doing it no problem, they just immediately say, well, I can't get to that level. And so it's important to say, no, you totally can. And if you came into my class, I would, if all you could do were stick figures, well, great, that's excellent. The actual craftsmanship of what you can do isn't dictated by how well you draw or create digitally. It's all right. So stick figure level. Now let's talk about what interests you or what really kind of gets you excited, and let's now tie that stick figure thing or wherever your skill set is and start working at that level. And as the improvement happens, if we can keep people doing it, then that improvement happens, and then they're able to move potentially beyond the stick figure. But that's the best part of the new media thing. I mean, really, if all you can do is stick figures and you have that creative sort of component under it, people will be love the new concept that you've created, which is based around that aesthetic.
So it's all possible. Well, so if students who come here will have access to computer labs to help them figure this out.
Oh,
right?
yeah, beautiful computer labs.
Tell me about them.
They're building it right now. Today started the day of construction. So we have
the computer labs are, not only are the
labs?
computer labs going to be wonderful too, we were actually walking through the halls going, oh geez, not only do we have two, but there are these other computer scenarios that we have. And it's not just actually, most people are like, oh, it's the hardware. It's really the software that rolls on those systems. And I think that's a major plus here at Middlesex, is the fact that we are across the board with anything that we're actually teaching. We are using the most up-to-date software, which is actually a huge benefit for obviously individuals leaving here and then jumping into the workplace, and that we've been very, very lucky, and even going forward, that's kind of something we've been sticking with in terms of current hardware, current software, and continuing to kind of update. And in fact, we were sort of looking at, we've been talking about virtual set technology on the side of the production facility that we're doing. We've been talking about motion capture and bringing in that. I'm waiting on the Oculus Rift development kit, getting these 3D printers, 3D scanners. Just in what ways can we actually get our hands on and expose our students to as many of these new technologies that are just coming down the pike.
So is 3D printing, which is literally taking an object, making a copy of a three-dimensional object, how does that integrate with new media?
Well, I mean, with new media, for instance, let's say from the entertainment side of the fence, would be in creating, let's say, a three-dimensional model in a software application like SketchUp or something much more advanced like, let's say, Autodesk Maya, to actually have a tangible object instead of just seeing that on a two-dimensional screen operating in 3D space, to actually say, oh, well, for instance, have the class each create a particular character that might then be integrated into a traditional, actual, out-of-the-box board game. Everybody's about gaming, video games, and so forth, which is huge, but also to be able to see these creations and to be able to have them actually pop out. Another interesting thing is within a year or two, it's been huge, that really 3D printers will be on your desktop. I mean, the patents are sort of being released at this stage of the game, and so a practical situation might be you have a printer over there, but you have, let's say, a case or a tool, and a piece is broken off. And you're like, well, I can't really go to get this. They don't make this piece anymore. Well, if you have the ability to actually just create that simple little bracket or that little clip or that little character in a program like SketchUp, which is off the internet, hit print, and within minutes, you now actually have the replacement piece, you have the replacement character, and I won't say we'll have the food yet, but I mean, I would say that's, down the road type of thing.
Think of movie props. When we did the film industry training program, we were constantly calling Hollywood to have them ship us movie props, and they rent for like $2,000 a day. They're enormous. It was a huge part of our budget, was props that you just can't get here in Connecticut. They're only available there because they've used them in movies and things. So there are companies that have just get me a leg of lamb. Push the button, and the leg of lamb falls out of the machine.
We're not quite there. That's a little Jetson, but I mean,
but think about it.
Yeah.
That's where we're headed.
Yeah.
That you need this coaster. You could just make that coaster. Well, give me 10 of them. Okay, give me half an hour. And we're not there yet, but 5 years, definitely.
It's remarkable. I saw an example of a 3D printer at the Capitol last spring, and it was a chess piece of some kind, but it had the interiors of a piece as well as the exterior. So it wasn't just a block of plastic formed in the shape. It had spiral staircases going down the inside.
I was just checking out a site which actually was. There was a contest, build a better birdhouse. So really, it was the external birdhouse all detailed out, but the internals you're modeling that as well. And so the printer, we're really on the cusp of a different type of 3D printing that's just around the corner, which is, we've been using this one method, which is using sort of spools of plastic to build upon. And there's actually a new technology that's actually now open source can get their hands on because of some patents that are releasing. I think we're really going to see a lot of other different uses and a lot of these things in various different places accessible by a lot of people. Just that's one sliver of the technology.
Yeah, there was a remarkable program on television about a child who had been born with one ear, and they were able to make another ear for to attach to her head, so that and of course it would change as she grew. And so they can alter it. So it's biomedical as well. I mean, there are these medical
But I mean, the core
applications.
concept there is that, so what is the skill set that an individual would need? Well, that individual would certainly need to, number one, be able to sit in front of a computer and understand computer graphics at a base level. Then be able to move into, okay, beyond just the two-dimensional presentation, how does one actually design in 3 dimensions within a 2-dimensional scenario? And then taking that skill and building that forward, and then tying it, of course, to whether that be display technology or actual tangible output technology. That core skill, which was back at understanding, well, what makes good design? How does that work within this 2-dimensional computing environment? And then how do we extend that into a 3rd dimension? That just doesn't happen in 5 minutes. So again, that's a little bit of why we're saying, okay, folks, come on in. And there are a lot of different angles that we have to sort of approach your education when it comes to new media.
I know, but the frontier is so exciting. The possibilities are
I mean,
endless.
It sounds trite. The toys are fun. I have to admit.
I believe it. So now let's talk about how students can come to Middlesex Community College and enroll in this program. So, Rich, as the director of the program, tell us about that.
Well, first you can just call us, and we're happy to meet with people. That's something that we're constantly doing.
So you pick up the old media, the telephone, or your smartphone,
and call us or email us,
and call us at
343-5796. That's my number.
Direct 860-343-5795.
Or if you just call the college and ask for us, they'll know where to send.
Okay.
Send them. But we have a website.
Yeah, website. Emails on both of our emails are obviously accessible via the website,
which is MxCC.edu.
Yes.
And you can access the Center for New Media website through there. Or you can just go mxcc.edu/CNM, and that'll take you right to the Center for New Media.
And CNM stands for Center for New Media. So we have to tear that one down and make sure that people know these initials, get out of hand. And there are people who will talk with prospective students, such as yourselves, probably those people, about what this program might be like and what courses to take.
They can come in, and we'll give them the tour and bring them around and.
And again,
advise them?
That is another core strength, I think, of Middlesex, is the fact that here we are sitting and saying we prefer individuals to actually contact us, so that we can actually get a feel for there's so many different roads to travel down. So let's talk, let's figure it out. And since we are directly the ones who are connected to the program, teaching the courses and so forth, it really is a great way to start the relationship and going forward through the program.
Some people come in and they know exactly what it is they want to do. They want to be a producer at ESPN. Mm-hmm. We can help you there. And some people say, I love this field, but I don't know what I want to do, and we can help you there too.
Well, that's a piece of it that I'm picking up from this conversation, because who could have dreamed that you would need to learn to do design in 3 dimensions in terms of graphic interfaces and software programs and all this stuff in order to get somewhere else, right? So it's one of the tools on the utility belt. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know, it's hard to say that's what I want to do.
Part of education is exploring.
Exactly.
And that's the fun of the learning process, is exploring and discovering things you didn't know or consider.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, wishing you a very good day.